Just a day ago, I was scrolling through my YouTube and I saw that Web Bae posted this video of him showing how to build this magnetic tooltip that shows up on the Tola website over here. And we can see that whenever you hover one of their logos, the tooltip moves around. And if it's the first one, it's stuck to the left. If it's the last one, it's stuck to the right. And he goes into detail with a very cool tutorial showing how to build this with GSAP. There are a lot of nice little gems in here, like using auto alpha with GSAP instead of opacity, and showing you how to use flip and chroma.js to really change colors in an easier way. But when watching this, the only thing that I could think of is maybe this could be done easier and without using those three libraries. So I went out to challenge myself to do this without using any libraries to achieve the same result. And I'm going to show you how I did it in this video. So I started by cloning his project, and the only thing that I added was the styles in JS because I prefer to have the CSS and the JavaScript in the project. I added this styles here. I already have them in, but I'll explain what they do. Follower is the tooltip, this tooltip that appears here. So I just put the transition properties in here. You could also set it to all so that you set all the transitions through the Webflow UI. I prefer to do this. It's considered best practices to only specify what you want to animate. And then I can just use transition duration to set this for all the properties. After that, I set the tag to opacity 0, and I'm setting it to opacity 1 when the follower outer wrap, that is the parent card that has everything in it, has the follower list being hovered. So it's not a simple selector. It checks if the card has a follower list that is being hovered, and then it targets the tag and makes it visible. And it also targets the backed by text and makes it opacity 0. So that's why you can already see this interaction happening before I even do any code. To show you my thought process for how to build this, I have this quick sketch over here of our structure. So this is the card and these are the 6 logos. Using JavaScript, we can get the size of an element as well as the distance it has from the edge of the screen. So what we want to do is get the distance of the parent that holds all of these. So it starts from here and it ends here. And we want the distance of this. And then let's say we hovered the second item, we also want this distance. If you subtract these two, you get the distance from the beginning of this rectangle to the beginning of the rectangle that is being hovered. And that's what we need to move this to the correct position. And then to center it, we will actually set it not to the edge of this rectangle, but to the center of it over here. And then if we move it by 50%, then we can get it to be exactly in the middle. And then for the first one, it will be at the edge. So we will not move it by 50% and we will not set it to the center. We will just set it to the edge. And for the last one, instead of setting it here or in the middle, we will set it at the end and then move it all the way back with transform. And this way it will be pinned on the right. Now, the reason I don't just use the right position and make it 0 is because we need to be only using one of the two properties in order to animate it smoothly from here to here. And we will just be using CSS to do it. Back to the projects, we're gonna open the JavaScript embed that I have here. And all I have ready right now is a DOM content loaded listener. This just makes sure that everything is loaded before we start interacting with the content. The first thing we want to do is get all the elements. So first we get the outer card that wraps everything in that element that we're using. And then inside that card, we look for the follower items. So these are the collection items. And then we also select the tooltip. So the first thing we want to do is we want to loop through each logo. That's how we will target each of them individually. And then we will add a mouse enter listener to each of the logos. We then start to extract the name of the logo by getting the attribute, just like Web Bae did in his video. And we set the tooltip text content to that name. So immediately we want to change the name so that when we calculate the distance, it's based on the new name and not on the old one. After that, we have to calculate the position of the tooltip, the new position. So the way we can get that position is by using getBoundingClient rect. And this just gets the rectangle that surrounds the element that we want. And we get the left property. And that is its distance from the left of the screen. And then we also get the same thing for the parent of the logo, which is the list that contains everything. And we subtract it, like we said, to get the distance that the logo has from the edge of the parent. After that, we need to check if we are on the first one. And if we are, then we will set the translate X to 0. So this is the default. If you are in the first one, we want it to be all the way at the beginning. We don't want it to move in any way. If it's the last one, then we will change the position to also include the logo width so that it goes all the way to the end. And then we move it all the way back to make sure that it's flush on the right. And if it's neither the first or the last, that means it's any of them in between, then we only add half of the logo width, which makes it go in the center. And then we move it back by 50% to make it centered to that logo. Since we did that, we can now set the position. And it's very important to not forget to put pixels at the end. This is something I always forget, and you don't really get a good error for this. And after we do that, we can now set the colors. And first we get the color from the CMS on the attribute that we set. And then we can set the background color. And instead of using chroma here, I'm using CSS color mix, which doesn't have perfect browser support at the moment. It's at 88%, I think. But for most browsers, you will be completely fine. And if you don't want to use this, then the other workaround is to use a div as a background on that element. And then the actual parent element of that tag will have a white background, and just lower the opacity to something like 20%. So when you set the color to the color that is coming from the attribute, it will just be a faded out version, and it will still work just as well. And then we just set the text color as simple as this. And this is it. This is all we need. This is less than 40 lines. And if we save and we go to the published site, we will be able to see that this is working just as we wanted without using any external libraries. And we just used CSS for the animations. Let me know in the comments if you enjoyed this. I will have the links to Web Bae and Tola in the description. And if you enjoyed this and you want to support me, make sure to hit the like and subscribe. And let me know what you want to see next.